Hey everybody, this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to use Modo's new procedural mesh ops in order to make a stylized low poly tree generator. So the first step we'll want to do, we'll make sure that we're in our setup tab here. This will give us access to the schematic viewport as well as the 3D viewport, our mesh ops, our items, and our properties. So now that we have this, we'll take out all of this first and we'll start from scratch. And we'll want a locator, and this locator is going to be our tree generator, and this is going to be where we keep most of our controls for the complete tree generator. Now that we have the locator, we're going to want to make a mesh here and put that in, parent that, and we'll rename the mesh to tree. Then we'll go to our mesh ops here. We're going to add a cylinder. This will give us our original shape. The first thing we're going to want to do is be able to control the radius of this thing. So we're going to want to bring these two in, the radius X and the radius Z. We're going to go back to our tree generator and go to the user channels, and we'll add a user channel here and call this tree radius. This is going to be a distance type. We'll make sure that we have a minimum value of, we'll make this 0.01. So now we can bring this in to our schematic view, and we'll hook this up to those two channels. And then we can test this out by hitting C and bringing up our channel hall, and you'll see that now we have complete control over our radius. While we're in the cylinder, we can also change the sides to 14, the segments to 1. We'll make the cap top a quad grid, and we'll take out the bottom poly. And then we're going to want to actually make this 2 segments. So now that we have 2 segments, we're going to want to select these top polygons. This is going to be our tree tip. So we're going to want to do a assign selection set. And we'll set our selection here by index. Select all those polys, and we're going to convert them using the Alt key and clicking this button, and we'll hit set. So now we're going to want to keep this as vertex, and we'll name it tip. And now we want our tip to be pointy, so we're going to go and add a transform effector and bring down the radius of that. So with this transform effector, we're going to want to make sure that the type is a vertex selection set, and we're going to set that to tip. And now we can do 2 things with this. We can first scale these 2 down. We want to scale these down quite a bit. I'll bring it to 1% for the X and the Z, making the radius pointy. And we'll also give ourselves some control over the height of that tip. So position Y we'll bring into our schematic tab. We'll go back to this tree generator and add a user channel here. We'll put this in as tree tip. We'll keep that distance, but I'm going to take down that minimum scale. Now we can add those 2 up. We'll test it out here, and that works. Okay, so Now, what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to make a selection set for the branches. So now we'll do another assign selection set. We'll go to our selection here and we'll do a select by index. Make sure this is set to vertex. We'll name that branches. And now what we'll do is we'll select every other edge here, convert that to vertex, and do a set. For some reason that didn't set. Okay, seems to be working now. Not sure what was going on with that, but we'll try and reset those. It seems to be alright. Okay, so the next thing we'll want to do is create a new transform effector for those new vertices that we saved out. We're going to set this to vertex selection set for the branches. And hopefully if we did this right, we'll be able to scale. Okay, everything seems to be working. So the first thing we're going to want to do is bring out the Y, and what that's going to do is set the branch angle. Get this anywhere. And we'll go into our tree generator, open up the user channel and make this branch angle. This is going to be a distance scale. Plug that in and test it out. And that moves everything up and down. And then we'll want to take the scale of the X and the Z. And we're going to set this up to, first we're going to do a math multiplier. Actually, before we do that, I'll show you why we want to do that. So we're going to make a new user channel. This is going to be the branch distance. And this will be a percentage. And if we plug these up here, you see it's a little crazy. So we want to tone that down a little bit. And what we'll do in order to do that, we'll add a multiplier here. We'll connect these two to the math multiplier together. And we'll tone this down. And then add them both up. Now you'll see we have a lot more control over that. Okay, so now that we have the branch controls there done, we're going to want to control this bottom ring. So we'll assign a new selection set here. And I'm going to select all of those and convert them two vertices. We'll make this bottom ring. Do select by index. Clear all that. Make sure those are set. And we can make a new transform effector. We'll set this to the bottom ring here. Vertex selection set, bottom ring. We'll go to the effector, and first we'll want to scale the X and Z. We want to make that smaller, so we're going to make this 5% by 5%. That scales it down. The next thing we can do is we want to give us controls for the position. That way we'll be able to move it up and down. So we'll take this and bring it into our schematic view. We'll make a new channel for this. We'll call this branch bottom adjust. This is going to be distance. And we'll test this out, make sure that works. And we can move that around now. Next thing we can do while we're in the transform effector here, actually, nope, that's it. We'll go on to the next one. Now we want to be able to make an array. This will enable us to add different levels of the branches. So we'll go to our tool pipe here. We're going to make this count 1 on X, 1 on Z, and then count Y is where we'll want to have that control. So bring count Y in, and we'll add another channel here. We'll make this level count. This is going to be an integer. We'll make this minimum value of, actually, I don't know if that's going to work with 0. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now we can add levels to that. And while we're in here, it's a little strange how it shows here but doesn't update there. Strange. Anyway, we'll make that 3 again just so we can see what we're doing. Okay, back into the array. We have these jitter controls. They're pretty good. Also, we have rotate controls. The rotate will allow us to rotate the branches and give it a little bit of randomness. What else do we have here? You can see that. Those channels we're not going to use too much. We'll have this rotate Y, bring this in here. also want the offset Y. Actually, we're not even going to use that rotate Y. But we want the offset Y. The offset is going to help us control the tree height. So we'll add a new user channel here. We'll name that tree height. And then this is going to be a distance. We'll link those up there. And this will probably have to change, but that'll give us control for the distance and the height. And we can also add those jitter controls too here. We'll just do 3 user channels. Jitter Y. I believe it's distance. We'll double check that here. Jitter, yep, distance, okay. So going back here, we have the jitter Y. And we'll do X. Add one more. We'll make that Z. And now we can link those up. And that allows us to randomize the tree a little bit. As we test all those out, they work. Okay. So the next one we'll want to do is add a vortex. That'll give us a little control over the shape and the twist. So look for the Vortex Effector. And while we're in here, we can look for a few channels that we'll need, which will be the scale on Y, and that should be scale on Y, I mean. And that should help with the tree height. We're going to need that for a few things, so we'll bring that in. And we're going to bring this and plug that into the tree height. What we're going to need a math multiplier here. We'll plug these in like so. And we're going to make this 0.482. A few other things we can do here. We'll have that twist control and the ability to taper that. We're just testing this out here. See what that spiral amount does. Okay, so we'll bring these two out. We're going to add 2 new channels, twist and taper, and both of them One is going to be degrees for twist and percentage for taper. So go to the user channels here, make this twist, this will be angle, and now you'll see we have the twist there. The next one we'll make will be taper. This will be percentage. We'll link that up there. Test it out. Now we can taper that in. So the next thing we'll want to do is add another transform effector. This will be for our shaping the fatten part of the tree. First transform effector there. We're going to add a linear fall off to this. The fall off, we'll want to rotate this -90 degrees. And as far as the transform effector, we're going to add 150% to the scale. And then with the linear fall off, we're going to scale this to 0.01 on the X and the Y, just so that isn't visible. That doesn't really matter. Then the fatten position Y, we'll move that linear fall up and down. So we'll take this out here. We'll want that channel. We'll make a new user channel in our tree generator. We'll name this fatten position Y. And this will be a distance. If we link those up, we'll see we can move that around. Next thing we can do with this linear fall off here is take the scale on the Z, and this will actually change the length of the fall off if you see that orange moving up. So we'll take that and we'll add a new user channel named fatten length Y. This is going to be, I believe, a percentage. Now you'll see that that channel is working correctly now. We still have a few other things we can do with this linear fall off. If we look, we'll have other options here. We'll want to have something where we can enable the fall off. So we'll bring this in. This will give us a way to turn this on and off. So we'll go to the new user channels and we'll do fatten toggle. Make this Boolean. And we'll plug this in. And now you see you can click that on and off now. We want it on for now. Next thing you can do in the linear fall off here is we have, let's see, the strength. And the range. guess we'll have to turn that on first. That's why it's not working. Okay. Had me confused for a moment. But now when we go to linear Falloff, we'll see these controls are working again now. The range. So we'll take these two out. Put them into the schematic. I will make some new channels here. The first one we'll make will be the fatten strength. I believe this was a percentage. Let's just double check here. Strength is a percentage, range is distance. Okay. So we'll take the strength and plug that in. Now you see we have more control over that. I'll make another one, another user channel here. We'll rename this fatten range adjust. This is going to be distance. And we can plug that in, and that'll give us an adjustment on the range. Now the next one, the next instruction is going to be to push the tree up a little bit. So we'll do a transform effector. And then we'll make this into position Y. We'll take that out there. And we're going to add math add on there. This is mainly just going to be an offset. It's hiding. Put that back there. And I have most of this already taken care of from the first project. A lot of this came from just trial and error. We're going to make a new user channel here. This is going to be named trunk height. And this will be for the whole tree, but this is moving on to the next part where these two are going to come together. So we'll name that trunk height. We'll keep that as distance. We'll plug that in. And now that gives us control over the height. If we can imagine a trunk being here, which is what we're going to do next. So now we want the trunk, so we'll make a new mesh layer. This will be another cylinder. And while we're in the cylinder, we'll make some adjustments here. So we're going to have 8 sides, 1 segment. Cap top will be none, because it's going to be hidden from view. Cap bottom, we'll leave that a single polygon. Keep that in the y-axis. And the radius of the y, we'll keep that as 2 inches. We're going to want that small for what we're going to be doing. And position y, we'll put that as -13. And that's just something that I found from trial and error. Then we can take the radius of the x and the z here, and that will be our control over the trunk radius. So we'll bring those two out into the schematic tab. Move this bring this down a little bit as we work our way through here. This just allows us to see a little bit better. We'll add a new user channel. We'll name this trunk radius. This will be percentage. And we can plug this in here. And we should be able to make that radius any way we want now. Okay, so the next one we'll want to do is make a Polygon Bevel for this bottom polygon here. So look for the Polygon Bevel operator. We'll go to the tool pipe, and we're going to want the shift and the segments. You'll see the shift brings that out. The segments will add detail to your trunk. So select those two channels, bring them down. Make some new user channels. The first one will be the trunk height, which actually we already have. So I'm just going to plug this in here to the shift. And we're going to test this out. And that should work a little better once we're done with everything. But moving on, we'll add another one for the segments. And this will be an integer. Minimum value of 0. We'll plug this in. And we should be able to see now. We can add segments to that. Okay. So the next thing we can do is we'll add a transform effector for the entire mesh. And this is going to be our controls for the shape of the trunk. So we'll want to add a linear fall off to this. We'll rotate this by -90 degrees. One other thing with this linear fall off, we'll make this a mirror, so that'll be on both sides. So then we'll go back to the trunk here. We'll mirror this as well. And we can take the scale of this and be able to use that to control. Actually be the scale of the transform effector. And bring that out. And this is going to be the spread of the tree stump. So we'll make a new user channel here called stump spread. This will be a percentage. those in and test that out. That's a little crazy, so we might want to tone that down a little bit with the multiplier. So make a math multiplier here, we'll look for that one. We'll tone this down by 0.001 again. We'll plug this in here. And now we got a little bit more control over that. In the linear fall off, we can take the a few things will change this to 420. And we can take the decay shape here and bring this out. And this has 3 different shapes we can use: linear, ease in, and ease out. Actually, it's got 4. Smooth, ease out, ease in, and linear. So what we can do here, we'll make a new user channel. And we're going to make this integer. We'll call this trunk shape. And give this a maximum of 3. So it'll be 0 to 3. And then we can... Okay, so we made this channel on the wrong one, so we'll delete that channel. We want to remake that here. Trunk shape, integer, everything okay. And then connect those 2 up. You can't see anything now, but you should be able to see it in the future. Okay, so now you can see that that's working. Back into the linear fall off. And we can change this position Y. Actually, while we're here, we'll rename that to trunk. Okay, so now we'll take this position Y out. We're going to make a new channel. And call this the trunk fall off height. This will allow us to move the fall off as the height of the tree gets bigger. This will be a distance, no minimum or maximum value. And you'll see that moves everything up and down. The next one we can change is the range. That will fatten everything up. So bring this out here. We'll make a new channel. Call this the trunk shape length, because it's going to allow us to lengthen the shape of the deformer. If I remember correctly, this was a percentage. I can't remember. Let's check it. Actually, it's a distance. So we're going to remake that here. Delete that channel. Change that to distance. We can plug that in, and that we'll see makes that a little fatter. Okay, the next thing we can do is go to transform. We'll make another transform effector. This is going to coincide with the tree. So go to the effector settings, we'll go to the position Y and bring that out. We're gonna add this into this multiplier way up here. So now everything should be connected, where we can change the shape of this thing. Some things will have to be adjusted slightly. I guess it just had a difference between this scene and the other. But now we can move the tree height up and down. And for now we're going to take out the locators just so they're not in the way. The radius will work. We can move the tree tip, the branches, take out the distance a little bit, change the angle down. We can change the bottom, add levels to it, change the jitter, twist it around a bit. Change the taper. The one thing that I would like to change with this array that I forgot to do here, there's an option to do between. That's what we want. We want that between option. So now, when we do the tree height, that gives us better control here. Sometimes the polygons get a little buggy like that. You can usually do that and it kind of fixes itself. Go back to this tree generator here. get these channels back. Okay, we'll try this again here. Okay, so we can move things around a little bit. Change the levels, change the height, the jitter, the twist, taper, you can change the fat and strength. We'll change the length on the fat and 2, the position, that way you can make it rounder if you want. Take the tree tip down, maybe add a few levels. It's hard to see here. And try and change things around. Trunk height, radius, add some segments to it. You'll see the spread. You can move that down. You can adjust the shape. Change the fall off height. There seems to be one thing that we're missing here. Oh, the trunk shape length. It's way down there. Or up there, I should say. You can arrange these controls however you want. I just happen to do it in the fastest way just to build the thing and show you how everything works. And that's that. I hope this helped a little bit.